Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome to another World Cup video where today I'm going to be ranking every single nation's goalkeeper for the upcoming World Cup. And of course, as you can see on screen right now, I have created a tier list system, or should I say I found one online that was already made, so I stole it.
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
You know what they say, work smart, not hard, but of course, look at this tier list system. We've got multiple different ranks or tiers from D all the way to S. Obviously, the higher up the rankings you go, the better the goalkeeper. And of course, today, I'm going to be ranking all 32 nations' goalkeeper options for the upcoming World Cup. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you want me to do this video concept with any of the other positions, from defense all the way to attack, let me know in the comment section down below. But of course, in terms of the criteria, in terms of how I'm going to judge these nations in terms of their goalkeepers, first of all, the main thing I'm going to be looking at is, does that nation have a standout goalkeeper? Do they have a decent enough goalkeeper for the World Cup? And of course, on top of that, I will be looking at depth, because of course, some of these nations, they might not have the best goalkeeper in the world, but they've got quite a few decent options. And as we know, depth can be important. You might need a backup goalkeeper. I mean, for all we know, Virgil van Dijk might take his revenge on Jordan Pickford. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, without wasting any more of your time, let's jump into it. And of course, the way that we will be starting is we will be looking at Group A first. And of course, saying that the first nation we have is going to be Qatar. Now, of course, just in the meantime, at least, I'm going to put Qatar kind of mid-table, where, to be honest, isn't a bad shout to kind of keep them. I think looking at Qatar in terms of their main goalkeeper options, the main goalkeeper that they seem to be sticking with lately is a man by the name of Saad Al-Sheeb, how I believe it's pronounced. And of course, looking at him, he's had over 235 appearances in the Qatarian League with Al Sadd, and of course, in terms of competitive games that he's played for the Qatari national team, 24 clean sheets in 60 games, which is almost a clean sheet in every 2 games. I mean, looking at that record, it is absolutely brilliant. And I mean, if you just look at statistics like that, you could easily put him in the A or almost even the S category, because those are decent numbers. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, you do have to remember that it's not as competitive of a league where they do play, and the opposition that they have isn't as tough as some of the other European leagues. So of course, once again, you do have to take that into consideration. And also, you're going to be looking at some really top quality goalkeepers as you move up the line, from the likes of Thibaut Courtois, Neuer, and all of those goalkeepers. So you do have to remember that in comparison, it's not as tricky for Qatar as it is for those nations. And as I said, I do really rate this Qatarian goalkeeper. Also won the Golden Glove in the 2019 Asian Cup. Once again, I do highly rate him, but compared to some of the goalkeepers that we will get down the line, unfortunately, I am just going to keep him in the B category, which once again, I don't feel like a bad shout to put them in, to be honest. And now, of course, jumping into our second nation, once again, this is a nation where I had a tiny bit more trouble. We have Ecuador next. Now, of course, looking at Ecuador, I found that they have 2 main goalkeeper options with the likes of Alexander Dominguez and Hernan Galandes. Once again, this is going to be one of those other videos of mine where I can't pronounce a single name. But you know what? I think it's what you expect when it comes to my videos. But of course, look at these 2 main goalkeepers, both in their mid-30s for Ecuador, and at the end of the day, as I said, there's nothing about these 2 goalkeepers that I think is insanely impressive.
Well, let's be nice.
Yeah.
Let's be nice. We don't have to go there. I mean, you're not wrong, but you didn't have to say it.
As I said, especially comparing them to some of the other goalkeepers we're going to get down this video. As I said, they're 2 okay goalkeepers. I think I'm a bit more impressed by Ecuador's defense compared to their goalkeepers. As I said, once again, they are top level goalkeepers. They will be World Cup goalkeepers. But as I said, just compared to some of the other names we're going to get down the line, unfortunately, they are slightly bottom tier. Now, of course, moving on, we've got Senegal next, and where else than in the S tier am I supposed to put the nation that has the likes of Eduard Mendy, the Senegalese wall, obviously between the posts, now that he's got the likes of Koulibaly ahead of him, as well as Chelsea. They are going to be so unstoppable. I mean, looking at Eduard Mendy, he came out of absolutely nowhere, and he's become a Chelsea hero. Yes, maybe not as good last season as he was the season before, but as we know, Eduard Mendy, obviously winning the African Cup of Nations with Senegal, a Champions League winner with Chelsea, he's really come out the ranks. I mean, whether I put him in S tier or high A tier, once again, I think that's debatable. But as I said, Eduard Mendy, the impact he's had on world football as a goalkeeper has been phenomenal. And of course, under him, even then, Senegal have 1 or 2 other decent options. But you can't mention another name when you have Eduard Mendy on the table. So of course, I just have to put Senegal in S tier. Now, of course, moving up, we've got what many people consider is the favourites to win Group A with Netherlands. Now, of course, Once again, just in the meantime, at least, I'm going to put them in A tier, because looking at Netherlands, I mean, just looking at things, looking at the cover of the book, I wouldn't say Netherlands have an absolutely fantastic goalkeeper. They're definitely not in the era of having someone like Edwin van der Sar between the posts, but saying that, they do still have quite a few decent options with the likes of obviously Tim Krul, who's been doing a very decent job for multiple Premier League clubs over the years, currently at Norwich. Obviously under that, you've also got the likes of Sillerson for Valencia, and on top of that, you've got the likes of a man by the name of Biel, once again, the Feyenoord goalkeeper, looking very, very promising. Of course, he was injured last season, but of course he did come back looking very, very strong. So of course, looking at Netherlands, they've got some very, very decent goalkeeper options. But as I said, just compared to someone like an Eduard Mendy and some of the other goalkeepers we're going to get, once again, I wouldn't quite call it top tier, but definitely better than most. So I do think that, at least in the meantime, I'm going to put Netherlands in A tier. I think it pretty much works out because it is better than the Qatarian goalkeepers and probably worse than the Senegalese goalkeepers. So I think it ends up working out. But of course, moving to Group B. Now, of course, this is where the controversy really sets in. I mean, you've got England, USA, Wales, and Iran. Of course, some brilliant goalkeepers in the ranks, and of course, it's going to be very tricky to rank some of them. But of course, starting off, we have good old England. Now, of course, once again, Southgate, you better choose the correct goalkeepers, otherwise your name won't be the only thing with South in it, as your career will end up joining.
Ooh, you're hard, showing up.
Obviously, looking at the likes of England, at least in the meantime, going to put them in A tier. As we know, they've got such a plethora of brilliant talents. From Aaron Ramsdale to Jordan Pickford, you've obviously got Dean Henderson we're not even going to mention. We've got Nick Pope and so many others. England, you've really got a special selection of stoppers between the posts. But of course, looking at you, at the end of the day, looking at some of your goalkeepers, I mean, Nick Pope got relegated with the likes of Burnley. You look at Jordan Pickford, almost got relegated with Everton. Dean Henderson, once again, hasn't even been starting for Manchester United. I'm a United fan, and I'm not sure I've seen him at all this season. At the end of the day, once again, it is a slight struggle, but if you look at those goalkeepers as individuals, they are brilliant. Obviously, Nick Pope just made a major move to Newcastle United. Jordan Pickford, as we know, a Euro Golden Glove winner. We can't forget that he just won the Golden Gloves at the Euros. I do believe England have some very, very top quality goalkeepers. Obviously, Ramsdale, the impact he's made for Arsenal, I'm very, very tempted to put them in the S category. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep them in the high A categories, and I can always move things around later on. Now, moving on from England, we have the United States of America. Now, of course, looking at USA, they've also got some really, really decent options. Once again, comparing them to the likes of maybe England, I think maybe they might just be a tier below them. I mean, looking at USA, they obviously have the likes of Zach Steffen, who will be going out on loan to Middlesbrough from Manchester City. Once again, maybe a tiny bit of a punishment for that cup final performance that he had. Hopefully that won't be taken too far against him in his career. But of course, look at them. They've also got the likes of Matt Turner, who's just made a move to Arsenal. Once again, as a backup option though. So once again, I don't know if you can rate it as highly as England, especially when Matt Turner will be a substitute or a second choice to an English goalkeeper. On top of that, they have one or two really other decent goalkeepers. But once again, if you look at USA, as good as their goalkeepers are, especially Matt Turner, I do unfortunately think that they are a level under England. Once again, some very, very decent options, but as they're not starters in the Premier League, once again, it's a whole different story. Now, of course, moving on to Wales, once again, this is a very, very tricky one, and I do think that I am going to have to put them in B. Once again, if you look at the goalkeepers that they have, from the likes of Ward to the likes of Hennessy, they are very, very decent goalkeepers. Hennessy has just made a big move, obviously, to Nottingham Forest. As we know, the likes of Ward has been a really good second option for Leicester City, but when Ward has played for this Welsh national team, he's almost been the difference maker in a very shaky Welsh defence. Of course, looking at them as a whole, I do believe that they are two very decent goalkeepers, but once again, I wouldn't quite put them top tier. I'm tempted to put them in C, but to be honest, if I'm comparing them to the USA goalkeepers, I do think that they are at least on par with them. Once again, if you look at Wayne Hennessy, some of the things he's done in his career, I mean, if you asked him to put his hand up to be in this team, which no, not like that Wayne Hennessy, then of course he is a very, very decent goalkeeper. But of course, jumping into our final Group B nation, we've got Iran, which once again, what a fantastic goalkeeper this nation has. I'm going to try and pronounce it, so please be aware. It is going to be the likes of Beranvand, which obviously as a goalkeeper, a 4 to 5 times goalkeeper of the year in the Iranian league. Of course, an absolutely fantastic player, as we saw in the 2018 World Cup. He was the goalkeeper that kept Iran in the competition for longer than a lot of people thought that he would. Of course, absolutely fantastic. And once again, if the depth is going to let them out, whether he's going to be the same goalkeeper, as I said, 4 to 5 times goalkeeper of the year, I have to put him in the B category, which, by the way, I feel like is going to be a very common occurrence. I feel like there are going to be quite a few teams in the B rank.
Thinking B! Thinking B! Thinking B!
But of course, that takes us to our next nation, which I can promise you cannot go in the B rank, as it is going to be Argentina, who at least at this point in time has to be in the A, if not S category. As we know, they've got the brilliance of Emi Martinez, the goalkeeper who was the missing puzzle piece for Argentina. As we know, he was the goalkeeper that was added to this Argentina team and helped Lionel Messi win his first ever Copa America. Obviously, as we know, also the goalkeeper that ended up helping them down the line to win the Finalissima trophy. At the end of the day, Argentina have a very, very solid goalkeeper option, and I'm going to get some criticism for this, but I'm going to put them in the S category. I think looking even above the likes of Emi Martinez, how brilliant he is. They've also got the likes of Rulli, who of course did a brilliant job with Villarreal over the last season or two. As we know, he was the goalkeeper that helped Villarreal win the Europa League final, and on top of that, helped them reach a Champions League semi-final. Obviously, looking at Argentina, they've got some brilliant goalkeepers, not quite in the era of Sergio Romero anymore. My Manchester United heart still bleeds for him. But of course, looking at Argentina, some top quality talent between the posts. Now, of course, that takes us to Group... Oh no, we're still in Group C. Where am I? I'm lost. But of course, looking at Group C, that takes us on to the likes of Saudi Arabia. Now, of course, looking at Saudi Arabia, once again, one of those nations where maybe I had some slightly more struggles with. I do think that this is going to be our first C-tier kind of goalkeeper in terms of the options that they currently have. Obviously, the man that they use is a man by the name of Mo Al-Awais, who in the 21-22 Saudi League, he did end up winning the league. But of course, looking at him number-wise, I'm not too sure how brilliant he is compared to some of the other goalkeepers we're going to see down the line. Of course, 14 clean sheets in 29 games in the Saudi League. Once again, that's not bad statistics whatsoever. But if you compare him, once again, or if you compare that to some of the tougher leagues around the world, I'm not too sure that the Saudi League can compare to those leagues. So once again, just unfortunately for him, I am going to put him in the C category. Now, of course, that takes us on to Poland, which once again, very, very decent goalkeeper, at least going to go into the B category once for now, because they do have the likes of Szczesny, as we know, Juventus goalkeeper for quite some time now, absolutely brilliant shot stopper. Once again, I would love to put them in a higher spot, but ever since the likes of Fabianski has retired from national football, once again, I just slightly doubt them because that depth has disappeared. If they had the likes of both Fabianski and Szczesny, they would 100% be a guaranteed A team. But of course, look at the likes of Szczesny by himself. Once again, he is a brilliant goalkeeper. As we know, in both the Premier League and the Serie A, he has really made a name for himself. Once again, absolutely brilliant shot stopper. Once again, it's very, very tricky because I feel like he should almost go in the A category. But once again, I think just in the meantime, I'm going to put him in B. And if you guys have any disagreements with me, let me know in the comment section down below. But of course, that takes us to our final C team nation, and it is going to be the likes of Mexico, which once again, I'm very tempted to put in the A category. If you look at them, they've got the likes of World Cup legend Ochoa. As you know, that man is an absolute legend when it comes to World Cup goalkeeper performances. For Mexico in the 2014 World Cup, he was an absolute superstar, and of course, you just have to rate him highly. He is a legend of the game. But of course, now in his mid-30s, whether he's going to perform as well as he used to, once again, I do have my doubts there, and that is why I'm going to pop him in the B category. Once again, I'm probably going to move some nations around slightly later. But as I said, looking at the likes of Ochoa, an absolute legend for the Mexican national team. And yeah, I just have to rate him in a very high position. Now, of course, moving on to our current World Cup winners, we have good old France. Now, of course, when it comes to France, where do I begin in terms of their goalkeepers? I mean, I guess Hugo Lloris, a World Cup winning captain, with the likes of Magnan, who obviously moved from the likes of Lille, where he won the French goalkeeper of the season, to AC AC Milan, where he won the Italian League Goalkeeper of the season. This man is so heavily underrated, and it's so unlucky that he has to play under the likes of Lloris, because this man deserves to start. On top of that, you also have the likes of Areola, which I heavily regretted not spelling that correctly when I ended up Googling it. But of course, they've got on their hands 3 brilliant goalkeepers. And looking at France once again, although they've been slightly shaky in the Nations League, I have to rate them very, very highly. Of course, Hugo Lloris, brilliant goalkeeper, all of them absolutely brilliant. And I haven't even mentioned all of their goalkeeper options, but they at least deserve an S tier. I mean, I don't know what I mean by at least. You can't go higher than that. Now, of course, next up, we've got the likes of Denmark. Now, once again, very, very tricky nation, but I do believe that I have to put them in A. If you look at them, yes, although they don't have absolutely incredible depth, which might be the only thing holding them back from an S category, they've got the likes of Kasper Schmeichel, son of legendary goalkeeper Peter Schmeichel. And although, yes, maybe his father was a Champions League winner and won many different accolades, considered the best goalkeeper of all time by quite a few people, if you look at the likes of Kasper Schmeichel, he has created such a legacy for himself. He has been the sole reason Denmark have looked so good defensively over the last few tournaments, in terms of obviously the Premier League, winning a Premier League with Leicester City, an FA Cup, a Community Shield, and playing major roles in that. Kasper Schmeichel has truly created a legacy for himself and doesn't just deserve to be called Peter Schmeichel's son. This man, once again, absolutely legendary, and I'm going to put them in the A category. I think that he is that good that he lifts them to that level. Now, moving on to our next nation, we've got Tunisia. Now, once again, another African nation, our second one of this video. And of course, once again, I'm a huge fan of African nations. I want them to do well. But of course, the main goalkeeper that Tunisia seem to be using lately is a man by the name of Ben Sid, or Ben Said, I guess, unless he's related to Simon Sis.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Somehow. But looking at him in terms of competitive appearances for this Tunisian national team, 15 clean sheets in 22 games this season. That is mental to talk about in the 21-22 season. I mean, that is a clean sheet in 3 in every 4 games.
You shall not pass!
Pretty much. They've got themselves a very decent goalkeeper with the likes of Ben Said. But once again, in terms of their depth and whether the Tunisian league kind of compares to the other top leagues, once again, that is kind of where I have my worries a tiny bit. But of course, look at him. He does seem like a very decent goalkeeper, and he does seem like at least a B category. And in terms of, you know what, I just keep looking at this, and I can't not put Poland there with the likes of Szczesny in terms of how good he is as a goalkeeper. Sorry, I know I'm mixing things around. Get used to it. But of course, next up, we've got Australia, obviously the final team that has just been added to Group D. And of course, looking at Group D, as many people know, they've got the legendary ex-Brighton goalkeeper with Matt Ryan. Now, of course, unfortunately, looking at Matt Ryan, he's not getting much game time nowadays. He's kind of just watching Real Sociedad play for free while sitting on the bench. Once again, he's not playing as much as he used to, even for the Australian national team anymore. I wouldn't necessarily say that he is 100% guaranteed to be their goalkeeper. They seem to be trying out different options. Once again, he's not quite the goalkeeper he used to be. And even under that, I wouldn't say that they've got too much depth. Unfortunately, Australia, although a year or two ago, or 3-4 years ago, I would have put you guys slightly higher. Unfortunately, the way things stand, I'm going to put you in the C category, and I'm almost considering a D category. But of course, one category, or the next group we're going to be talking about, shouldn't have many low goalkeepers because it is going to be Group E. And as we know, with the likes of Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan, we've got some brilliant goalkeepers to talk about. I mean, once again, where do you start? I mean, talking about the likes of Spain, once again, as we know, they've had some of the best goalkeepers in football history. Unfortunately, they don't quite have that Casillas kind of goalkeeper anymore. But of course, looking at Spain, in terms of their goalkeeper options, one thing that I do heavily doubt is the fact that they do not go with the likes of David De Gea. Of course, the manager has come out, Enrique has come out to talk about the fact that, once again, he doesn't choose David De Gea because he finds that his distribution from the back is slightly sloppy, and that's not the kind of goalkeeper that he wants in his team. But saying that, that could really heavily cost them because David De Gea has been brilliant for Manchester United. Genuinely, I think he was United's best player last season. But of course, look at the other goalkeeper options they've gone for. As of late, they've gone for the likes of Unai Simon. They seem to be using him the most, with Raya from Brentford and Roberto Sanchez from Brighton. Once again, they've got 3 absolutely brilliant goalkeepers. But once again, I do feel like they do need David De Gea to kind of qualify for that S tier rank. But at the end of the day, they've got 3 very decent goalkeeper options, and I have to at least put them in the A category, because I mean, if I put Netherlands there with the goalkeeper options that I gave them, then I do at least have to put Spain. In fact, I'm even tempted to drop Netherlands down just by 1 level. But of course, moving on from a nation like Spain with a lot of really decent goalkeepers, we've got a nation that has got a superstar goalkeeper with Costa Rica. Now, I'm sorry, I have to put Costa Rica in the A category. How can you not put the likes of Keylor Navas amongst the best of the best? As we know, the likes of Keylor Navas, I mean, in terms of goalkeepers, is the most successful goalkeeper in Champions League history. He then moved to the likes of PSG, where he even keeps the likes of Gianluigi Donnarumma on the bench, the man who just became the player of the tournament for the Euros for his performance with Italy. Once again, the likes of Keylor Navas, maybe the most underrated goalkeeper of this generation, multiple Champions League, multiple league titles. This man is probably Costa Rica's best goalkeeper of their entire history. Absolute legend of the game, and deserves at least an A tier category. Now, of course, talking about A tier, once again, even a step above that, I've got Germany, and if you don't put Germany in the S tier, something is wrong with you. I mean, they of course have the sweeper keeper god in the likes of Manuel Neuer. As we know, once again, one of those goalkeepers where a lot of people consider him maybe the best in the history of football. He is in that argument there with the likes of Casillas, with the likes of Gianluigi Buffon, and so many others. Manuel Neuer once again in that race for the best goalkeeper of all time. Obviously, in terms of the second choice option, they've got Ter Stegen, who once again has made a real legacy at Barcelona. And even in terms of the third choice option, if they wanted to go for Bernd Leno, other than that, they've also got the likes of Kevin Trapp, if they chose him, who just won the Conference League with Eintracht Frankfurt. Germany, you've just got yourself so many brilliant goalkeepers. And I mean, as I said, there's just no argument about it. Has to be an S tier nation. Now, of course, jumping into our final E team or E group team, we've got the likes of Japan. Now, unfortunately, this one might have to go in the D category, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, not super happy about it. Of course, they've got quite a few older, aging goalkeepers that I don't rank too highly in this nation. Of course, the main goalkeeper that they seem to be using is 33-year-old goalkeeper Shuichi Gonda, once again, I'm sorry for that, who of course has had 32 appearances for the Japanese national team, of course currently plays in Japan, who once again, as I said, just looking at them, once again, if you can compare the J League to some of the top leagues in the world, once again, as I said, I'm just not too impressed with this option, and that is why I have to put them in the D category. Now, of course, moving on, we've got Belgium, who once again, you could not put it further from the D category. In fact, I mean, that's quite good to look at, the German flag next to the Belgian flag. But of course, I mean, once again, I don't have to explain this one too much. Looking at Belgium, their goalkeepers just won the Champions League, with Thibaut Courtois getting man of the match in a Champions League final. The third only ever goalkeeper to do so. As we know, Thibaut Courtois absolutely carried Real Madrid at points this season, obviously with the likes of Karim Benzema and one or two others. But as we know, once again, Courtois really nailing down the spot of maybe the best goalkeeper in the world as we speak. Obviously was the Golden Glove winner in the 2018 World Cup. Thibaut Courtois, I mean, I know I've said it about one or two other goalkeepers here, but Thibaut Courtois might be the most underrated goalkeeper in the last 5 to 10 years of football. The things he's achieved with Chelsea, with Real Madrid, and with the Belgian national team, this man can only be described as a legend. And I mean, on top of that, it also helps Belgium the fact that they've got the likes of Simon Mignolet and Casteels as backup options. As I said, just looking at Belgium with the likes of Thibaut Courtois in the season he just had, I could not put them anywhere else but in the S category. Now, next up, we've got the likes of Canada. Now, for Canada, it's a slightly weird one, as their goalkeeper was actually born in Croatia, a nation that is in a group for the upcoming World Cup. And it is a man by the name of Milan Borjan. Once again, that is slightly weird. Obviously, it was a man who was born in Croatia, plays for Canada, but his name is Milan.
Mr. Worldwide!
Slightly weird, but we will move on from that. But obviously, looking at the goalkeeper, is a 34-year-old goalkeeper for Red Star Belgrade, obviously in the Czech Republic League, as we know, has played a major part in their recent history and has been a very, very reliable goalkeeper for him. Obviously, just looking at him in terms of Canada and the appearances he's had for them, he's had 65 professional competitive appearances for the Canadian national team with 32 clean sheets. Once again, that is on average a clean sheet in every 2 games. Canada, you have got yourselves a very, very solid goalkeeper and obviously a very tough group with a lot of players that could score against you. It's a very tough group in terms of attacking ability. Once again, whether Canada will be able to cope with that, once again, they don't quite have that depth that I would be searching for. I am slightly worried, but I do think that Canada should at least go in the B category. Once again, not one of the worst nations, but not not one of the best on par, I would say. Now, of course, moving on, we've got Morocco, and as we know, the likes of Bono has just won the La Liga player or goalkeeper of the season, which to be in a league with Thibaut Courtois and to win the goalkeeper of the season, as we know, absolutely phenomenal. As we know, Bono, obviously brilliant goalkeeper for Sevilla as well. Once again, I do feel like I do have to rank him highly, B, if not A. In fact, I might even put him in the A category, but I think, unfortunately, due to maybe that depth, I'm considering B. To be honest, my mind is going back and forth of where I put him, but you know what, at the end of the day, I'm going to stand my ground. I am going to put him in the A category. Looking at the likes of Bono, what he's done for Morocco and what he's done for Sevilla, this man is an absolutely brilliant goalkeeper. I feel like he's very heavily underrated, and a lot of people are going to have to witness that at the World Cup. Now, of course, moving on, we've got the likes of Croatia, the final team in this group. Now, of course, unfortunately, they don't have that legendary star with the likes of Subasic as their main goalkeeper. Unfortunately, that is the end of an era. Once again, brilliant goalkeeper in the 2018 World Cup, but saying that they do have one or two very, very decent options. Of course, look at them. They've got a man by the name of Dominik Levatovic, I'm sorry once again, and the likes of Gerbic, which, by the way, I'm not even going to talk about or respond to the fact that their goalkeeper looks like he's just farted in a room and he's waiting for everyone else to smell it. But of course, look at Croatia with these two goalkeepers. They are very, very decent. Of course, once again, maybe not at the level that Subasic used to be for them, but looking at the likes of Gerbic, obviously he was on loan at Lille in the French league last season from the likes of Atletico Madrid, where he won La Liga the season before that. Once again, maybe not their main starting goalkeeper, but once again, some very, very decent options to have. But once again, comparing them to previous years where they had Subasic, I have to put them in the B category. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to maybe our strongest nation yet in terms of goalkeepers, as it is going to be Brazil. In fact, I can't even put Brazil there. I have to put them first place in S tier. I mean, to have the two best goalkeepers in the Premier League, Edison and Alisson, who fought it out for the Golden Glove in the Premier League. Obviously, as we know, two of the best goalkeepers in the world at the moment. To have both of them for your nations, once again, I don't feel like I even have to elaborate why I'm putting Brazil in S tier. We jump into Serbia next. Now, I'm just gonna say this. If Serbia was a woman, it would definitely have its type in terms of men, good old shiny heads. But of course, look at Serbia, they've got some very decent goalkeeper options. First of all, with the likes of Rajkovic and Dimitrovic. Obviously, looking at Dimitrovic, unfortunately kind of a second tier option to the likes of Morocco's goalkeeper Bono at Sevilla. But at the end of the day, looking at the likes of Rajkovic, he has achieved some great things with Reims in the French league this season, with 11 clean sheets in 37 games. Once again, although maybe not quite top tier in terms of goalkeepers, Serbia definitely do have something special, and I have to put them at least in the C or in the B category, should I say. As I said, some very decent goalkeepers, but I wouldn't quite call it top tier. Now, of course, moving on, we've got the likes of Switzerland. Now, once again, this is one that could offend many people. As we know, their main goalkeeper, Jan Sommer, had a brilliant 2020 Euros. Obviously, kind of lasted out the entire penalty shootout with both France and Spain. You have to highly recommend him. He has become a Switzerland legend after a performance like that. But unfortunately, looking at him over the last year of football, unfortunately, not quite what you would want, conceding 60 goals in 33 Bundesliga games this season. As a goalkeeper, that is absolutely shocking, and as much as I really do want to put Jan Sommer and Switzerland in a higher place, unfortunately, just compared to some of these other nations, I just can't. Unfortunately, did slip up slightly. I mean, I do have to put him higher than that, don't I? I have to at least put him in the B category, but once again, lacking that depth there. In terms of Jan Sommer, unfortunately, didn't have a brilliant season, and he will have to show us on the world stage once again. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to the likes of Cameroon, which once again, as you know me, I am a huge fan of African football, and Cameroon definitely have a decent goalkeeper with the likes of Andre Onana. Once again, unfortunately, tested positive on a drug test not too long ago, one of those tests where you don't want a positive result. But of course, looking at that, since then, he's come back for football. He's made a big move to Inter Milan in the Serie A. Once again, I am expecting a lot from him. As we know, obviously, for Cameroon has been a standout goalkeeper for years now. Once again, maybe in terms of depth, that is kind of a position that they do need to end up improving on. But once again, Andre Onana really did create a legacy for himself himself at Ajax, won countless trophies, and I do consider him a top list goalkeeper. Now, of course, moving on, we've got Portugal, where once again, one of those nations where I don't know where to start with them. From the likes of Jose Sá to Rui Patricio to Lopez to Diego Costa and so many others, they've got 4 to 5 really decent goalkeepers, and it's not going to be easy selecting a starter for this tournament. I mean, ignore the fact that they can only probably take 3 to the tournament. It is not going to be an easy decision, but as I said, look here, Portugal have some very decent goalkeepers. Obviously, they seem to kind of be using the likes of Diego Costa from Porto as of late, who has gotten 15 clean sheets in 33 games. Once again, very, very impressive. So, of course, at the end of the day, once again, Portugal, I feel like if I have put a nation like Argentina in the S tier, I might have to put Portugal, but I do think at the end of the day, I'm just going to put Portugal in the higher ends of A tier. Once again, very decent goalkeepers, and it's hard not to put them in S tier. Now, of course, that takes us to our final 3 teams, and next up, we've got the likes of Ghana. Now, of course, do I want the hates to start here? As you guys know, I love making Ghanaian football content on this channel. I absolutely love the Ghanaian football team. But ladies and gentlemen, I hate to say it, but Ghana, you might have to be a D team category. Once again, I'm so sorry to say it. As I said, I love this Ghanaian national team. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I do think that if you look at the likes of Richard Ofori, Ziggy, and obviously the likes of Willacott, who's just moved to the likes of Charlton from Swindon, they've got some very, very decent goalkeeper options. But once again, if you compare them to some of the other goalkeepers in this list, I mean, even compared to the likes of Matt Ryan, if you compare them to Matt Turner or Jordan Pickford or Edison, unfortunately, they just do not compare. As I said, Ghana, I love your team. You've got a brilliant team, but if you look position, it is definitely your weakest on the pitch. I mean, looking at the likes of Richard Ofori, I mean, I'm even wearing a Orlando Pirates jersey today, so you can't say I hate you guys.
Fair enough.
I do genuinely think you have a good team. Unfortunately, this is your weak spot. We then jump into our final 2 teams, Uruguay and the Korea Republic. I don't know why New Zealand's there. I guess whoever made this tier list was slightly hopeful, but of course, looking at Uruguay, unfortunately, I have to put them in the C category. Of course, when Muslera was at the top of his game, he was an absolute beast of a goalkeeper, and I would have at least put them in a B, if not A category. But unfortunately, looking at Muslera, once again, not quite the goalkeeper that he used to be. Obviously, looking at his team as a whole this season were absolutely shocking with Galatasaray, as Galatasaray ended 13th place in the Turkish league. Obviously, looking at him, yes, although Muslera was injured throughout majority of the season, at the end of the day, if Uruguay have a problem with him, they don't have many great backup options, in my opinion. I do think Muslera is a standout goalkeeper, but unfortunately not what he used to be, and I have to put Uruguay in the C category. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes us to our final nation, the Korea Republic. Now, I wish we could end this video on a high note, but unfortunately, it is going to be another D team category, and I hate to say it, but unfortunately, looking at the Korea Republic, majority of the goalkeepers are playing domestically, and on top of that, their main goalkeeper, who is playing in a different and your main goalkeeper, who does seem to be playing in a different country, is only playing in the Japanese J-League. It is a man by the name of Kim Seung-gui, who's gotten 5 clean sheets in 13 games in the Japanese league this season. Obviously, 64 appearances for the Korea Republic. As I said, unfortunately, just nothing that absolutely catches my eyes. And if you look at the rest of these nations in terms of the goalkeepers that they have available, unfortunately, it just does not compare or even compete. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today's video. I have ranked all 32 nations in terms of their goalkeepers. Once again, yes, I'm very aware that I am going to upset quite a few people and quite a few nations. Once again, Ghana, I'm so sorry to put you in D. You know what? I'm tempted to put you in C so that I get slightly less hate. Probably not. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comment section down below whether you disagree with anything I said. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of you. And of course, let me know in the comment section down below which section of the field, which section of the team do you want me to do next? Do you want me to do defense, midfield, or attack? Let me know. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Help this channel grow. It always does help. But of course, the World Cup is coming forever closer. I'm so excited for it. But of course, as you can see, we've got a lot of very decent goalkeepers to watch out for. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, this has been your boy Finn, FYNN. See you very, very soon. Cheers.